People who have met their online friends, what made you instantly regret it? Story 1. My brother finally met a girl in person whom he had known online for 4 to 5 years. During that time, they had developed a sort of virtual relationship. When they met, she brought a friend along for support. As they sat around a table, attempting to engage in an awkward conversation, my brother couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her online appearance and her real-life looks. His interest shifted from her to her friend, which the girl noticed. In a moment of panic, she attempted to send a message to her friend, saying, "OMG, get me out of here. He's looking at me like he wants to jump me." Unfortunately, she mistakenly sent the message to my brother. What followed was an excruciatingly uncomfortable situation. My brother showed her the message on his phone and looked at her in disgust. Story 2. Met my best friend at the time on League of Legends. After talking every day for 3 years, I ended up moving to a state much closer to him, so we decided to finally meet. We talked before about all the things we'd do together and how awesome it would be. I loved him so much. He was there for me through so much and was a wonderful friend. He had a new girlfriend at the time of our meetup, and he brought her along with him. I had no problem with this because I'd love to meet the woman who makes him happy. It was abundantly clear from the get-go that she wasn't a real big fan of me. I did my best to be kind and still had tons of fun. I didn't hear from my friend much after that. A mutual good friend of ours messaged me, and when I was asked about my best friend, they said that his girlfriend was telling people that I was basically an awful person for whatever reason. 3 years later, and he's engaged to this woman, and I'm happy for him, but I haven't spoken to him in those 3 years. I still miss him every day, and I wish I could be there for him on his wedding day. Oh, wow. Your story's really touching. It's amazing how gaming can bring people together, and it's clear that you had a special friendship with your best friend. It's a shame that things didn't work out as he had hoped when you finally met him and his girlfriend. It must have been really difficult to see that his girlfriend didn't approve of you or something, and that caused a divide in your friendship. I wish you all the best and hope that maybe one day he'll come around to his senses. Story 3. When I was in high school, I met a guy from a different high school in a local chat room. We hit it off, and after a few days, we agreed to meet up at the store I worked at once I finished work. Well, I guess he showed up a little early with a friend and came through my check stand. I thought it was him. We'd swapped photos, but I was really shy and didn't want to be wrong. I waited for him to introduce himself, but he never did, and he and his friend paid for whatever they had and left without conversation. I was still hopeful that wasn't the guy, so I waited up for him for an hour after my shift. Of course, he never showed, because that absolutely was the guy. He must have been disappointed when he met me in the checkout line, and instead of being a decent person and saying he wasn't interested, he just ghosted me. If I could go back in time, I definitely would have said something to him at the check stand. That's my one regret. Story 4. It was my friend Kate who befriended this girl, Jessica, who allowed us to come and stay with her when we traveled to the US. Jessica was rude to me instantly and kept my friend away from me. I'd go upstairs and she'd find a reason for them to go downstairs. She had Kate share her bedroom and she'd lock the door for hours. And so I'd just go off and do my own thing. We met her 2 odd friends and they both ignored me. When it was time for Kate and I to move on to another state, Jessica insisted on coming with us. The lady we stayed with in another state, Robin, took no crap and called Jessica out on her strange behavior. Jessica proceeded to lock herself in a room and demanded Kate stay in there with her. They were in there all day, and eventually Kate came out and said to me that there's something wrong with Jessica and she's actually scared. We, Kate and I, had plans to stay with another online friend, Matt, in another state, and Jessica demanded we cancel because she doesn't like or trust Matt. We said, no, this is our holiday and we've paid for flights. And Jessica said, then she will come with us, but we can't meet up with Matt. We said no, she cried, we left. Kate blocked her on everything. Kate's mother called us not long after saying Jessica contacted her crying, saying Kate is in danger and we abandoned Jessica. And she's so concerned for my friend's safety, edit to add, as I recall, she's claimed to be concerned about Matt and basically wanted Kate's mom to tell us to stay with Jessica. It was actually incredibly scary. Kate found out later from another girl, Jane, they all knew each other from a forum, that Jessica had been telling everyone they were in love and had even slept together. I I don't know how much of that is true, but I've known Kate for 20 years now, and she's never identified as anything but straight. She denied it 100%. Jessica was just obsessed with her, and months later, Kate heard Jessica was telling everyone she was saving money to come to our country to find Kate. She never did, thankfully. Other than the time spent with this girl, we had a great holiday and made some good friends. I still talk to Matt. He's great. Wow, your story sounds like something out of a horror movie. It's so unfortunate that your friend Kate's acquaintance, Jessica, turned out to be so rude and controlling. It must have been really uncomfortable for you to feel like you were being excluded from conversations and events during your stay with Jessica. But it's good that you eventually moved on to stay with Robin, who was able to see through Jessica's behavior and call her out on it. It's concerning that Jessica became so fixated on Kate and seemed to want to control her every move. And it's scary to think that she even went as far as contacting Kate's mother and spreading rumors about their relationship. Some people are just insane, I guess. Story 5. I, female 22, had a friend, M 26, online for 11 years before we met. I'm Canadian, he's American. We met on an RP site when we were quite literally still kids, and were a massive part of one another's lives, especially during our teenage years. We spoke every day through text, on the phone, had each other on social media. We even knew and sometimes spoke to each other's families and friends in real life. He called me his light and his sister, and I called him my brother. We were family. It would take a whole novel to explain our 11-year friendship and what we have been through together, but I'll just try to make it short by saying he had a very crappy and unstable life and a lot of mental health problems. He was a narcissist. I spent many years being his emotional crutch and punching bag, helping him find jobs, being there for his breakdowns. I never broke off the friendship because after all those years, I kind of felt responsible for him. Anyways, last year, we finally decided to meet. We were both grown adults and saved money to go on a 10-day trip to a dream destination of mine in the States. I knew this likely would not go well. I knew he was a narcissist, but I just had to meet him. I had to meet my brother, the guy that was there for over a decade. I needed to see him face to face. On this trip, he, 1, abandoned me on a mountain during a hike when he decided he wanted. When he came back, I was obviously mad and wanted to go back to our hotel, but he told me to wait for him in the car while he did the hike on his own. I took an Uber home, and he returned as well 4 hours later. 2, automatically assumed I'd shell out $300 for him to buy a laptop he wanted without asking me, just brought me to the store to look around while we waited for our movie to start at the theater and sprung it on me. I refused. And 3, was overall inconsiderate. We only ate at places where he wanted to eat when he wanted to eat. Only did things that he wanted to do, and not me, despite the trip being my idea. I missed out on a lot because he just wanted to sit around and do nothing, and so much more. What hurt me the most is when I confronted him about it. He told me, "You're not my girlfriend. I don't need your approval or need to change for you to like me." I cut the friendship off and blocked him when we returned home. I also plan on retaking my dream trip one day and doing it properly this time. Story 6. I had to travel to my country's capital for a surgery. After the surgery, I couldn't move for 3 days, but the first day when I got up from the hospital bed, I obviously celebrated and told my online friends. They asked me what hospital I was in. Long story short, they lived close and came to visit me. Do you wonder, what do I regret? I regret meeting them in a wheelchair, not having showered, under heavy opioids. They were absolutely wonderful people, and I'll be seeing one of them in a few hours as she is visiting my hometown. Story 7. He wanted a and I just wanted friendship. He had photos from when he was 16 as the only photos he shared. He was 24 and looked nothing like that now. So much that I couldn't tell how he was the same person as in the photos. I was barely 18 and inexperienced in the world. Money didn't impress me, but he kept trying anyway. Motorcycles terrify me, but he kept trying to up his bad boy image by telling me all about his. All in all, we were totally incompatible, but he kept trying. When I wouldn't bite, he decided I instantly hated him. That was more than 15 years ago, and he's still using the same photos on meetup sites. I've called him out on it. He doesn't care. He says no one looks twice if he uses current photos. Truth is, it's his personality that sucks, not his face. Story 8. I had been chatting with Liz online for months, bonding over our shared love for obscure indie music and conspiracy theories. We were part of a small, tight-knit forum where people gathered to discuss everything from alien encounters to government secrets. When I discovered that we lived only a few hours apart, I was elated. It wasn't long before we decided to meet in person. On a sunny Saturday, I headed to our agreed meeting spot, a charming little cafe halfway between our respective cities. Liz had sent me a picture of herself, so I knew what to expect. I arrived early, grabbed a table, and waited for her to walk in. When she did, she looked exactly like her picture. Same pixie haircut, same wide grin. She spotted me right away and joined me at the table. But as soon as she sat down, the conversation took an eerie turn. Liz leaned in close and whispered, "I think we're being watched." I tried to laugh it off, but she was dead serious. Her eyes darted around the cafe, looking for potential eavesdroppers. When her food arrived, she carefully inspected her sandwich, as if she expected to find a hidden microphone inside. As the conversation continued, Liz revealed more and more alarming beliefs. The indie bands we both loved? She believed they were all part of a secret society communicating cryptic messages through their lyrics. The conspiracy theories we had playfully debated online? She thought they were just the tip of the iceberg, a vast web of hidden knowledge that she was determined to uncover. As much as I wanted to excuse myself, I was morbidly fascinated by the depths of her paranoia. I stayed longer than I should have, listening to her unravel the mysteries of the universe. When we finally parted ways, I knew I wouldn't be seeing her again. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that our online friendship had been a mistake. Meeting her in person had shattered the illusion of our connection, revealing a side of Liz that I couldn't reconcile with the person I thought I knew. Well, that's one way to ruin a perfectly good cafe date. It sounds like you and Liz had a real bond over some obscure indie music and conspiracy theories, but when you met in person, things took a turn for the paranoid. I mean, I've heard of being cautious, but inspecting your sandwich for hidden microphones, that's some next level stuff right there. Story 9. Met her after gaming with her for like 1.5 years. My parents allowed me to have her visit me for a weekend. Unbelievably beautiful girl. Had a lot of deep talks on the phone, were frequently flirting quite hard and stuff. She kinda was my first love interest. We went out for a drink with a few friends of mine. Started hitting on my best friend the second she saw him. Didn't even pay attention to me the whole evening. And the first thing she said the next morning was, "Let's go to his place." Dang, man, that really hurt me. Let me just be clear on a few things here. One, that was 10 years ago, give or take. I've made similar experiences over and over until I learned how to be more precise and direct about my feelings, especially towards love interests. Today, I'm a self-confident guy in his mid-20s that's very secure around people. So I guess things worked out for me. 2, I stopped contacting her after that, while my best friend actually stayed close for quite some years, proceeding to have some strange kind of friends with benefits, love affair type situation going on with her. I don't blame him. She was a gorgeous girl, even though it bothered me at first. We are best friends still, while she has vanished into nothingness at this point. 3. As many refer to my best friend as a bad friend for not respecting my interest in said girl, he didn't flirt with her that evening. It was one-sided, really. Everything that happened between the two of them was afterwards, after I quit contacting her. He asked me if I was okay with him keeping contact, and I was, since my interest had poofed out of existence at this very evening. Story 10. When I was 19, I jumped on a flight to meet a friend I had known for about 4 to 5 months. We both went through family bereavements and were a shoulder to cry on for each other via the phone or internet, and we just decided to meet for a few days in a country between us. Until then, everything had been perfect. She was the coolest girl, really smart, the kind of person you want to be around all the time. When we met, things started great, but a day later she confessed, "You're not what I expected." What? 19-year-old and not very confident? This knocked me sideways. I don't know, just... You seem different. I never hid who I was before we met, was completely open, and it put a real sour taste on the rest of my time with her. Instead of chatting nonstop and watching Jackass on TV in the hotel at night, we went quiet and straight to sleep, ate in silence. I put as much effort as I could into it, but I still never got to the bottom of how I was different. We went our separate ways, texted for a few days, then never spoke again. Story 11. I met Jake through an online gaming community. We played together almost every night, cracking jokes and discussing our favorite movies and TV shows. It wasn't long before we started to think of each other as friends, rather than just gaming buddies. When I found out we both planned to attend the same gaming convention, I was thrilled. We agreed to meet up and spend the day exploring the convention together. When the day finally came, I was nervous but excited. We had exchanged pictures, so I knew who to look for. I spotted him immediately. He was taller than I had imagined, but had the same friendly smile I recognized from our video chats. We exchanged awkward hellos, and I felt my nerves begin to subside. As we began to walk around the convention, I started to notice that Jake seemed a bit off. Every time we stopped to look at a booth, he would hover awkwardly, standing too close for comfort. When I tried to engage him in conversation, his responses were one-word answers or weird, out-of-place jokes. The easy banter we had online seemed to have evaporated entirely. As the day wore on, it became increasingly apparent that Jake had very little understanding of personal boundaries. He would touch my arm or my back without any real reason, making me feel uncomfortable. When we sat down to eat, he reached across the table and helped himself to my food without asking. I tried to laugh it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As the convention came to a close, I couldn't help but feel relieved. Despite our online friendship, meeting Jake in person had revealed a side of him I hadn't anticipated. He was socially awkward and didn't seem to understand the importance of personal space. I knew that our friendship would never be the same. As I said my goodbyes, I couldn't help but regret our decision to meet. Our online connection had been great, but the in-person encounter had tainted it. I couldn't shake the feeling that sometimes it's better to leave online friendships in the digital realm. Yeah, your story really resonated with me. It's amazing how online friendships can sometimes be stronger than in-person ones, and how meeting in real life can sometimes be a letdown. It sounds like you and Jake had a great rapport online, but when you met in person, things were a bit awkward. I can totally relate to the feeling of standing too close or touching you without permission. It's like, dude, personal space. And helping himself to your food without asking? That's just rude. It's funny how sometimes people's online personas just don't match up with their in-person personalities. Maybe Jake just wasn't as comfortable in person as he was online, but it's still a shame that your friendship was tainted by the experience. Story 12. He catfished me, always bragged about how he lost a bunch of weight, and he looked like the pictures he posted. Not that I personally cared, but he got a lot of online attention from girls because of this. Also, he made fun of me for being poor, like having a beat-up car, eating cheap food, etc. What a douche. Story 13. Not quite an instant regret, but there were two people I was meeting, Maisie and Maya, for the purpose of the story. We discussed meeting again, planned to have sleepovers, just generally have fun. The first day we met up went really well. We all had a good time. I thought it went brilliantly. Then a few weeks later, I found out they were carrying out all the plans without me. They still have sleepovers to this day when Maya is back from uni, and I'm just left out. I don't speak to either of them anymore, and it really hurt. I'd met Maisie a few times before, and it was fine. This all happened after I met Maya at the same time. A few months down the line, Maya confessed she had a crush on me. Don't know if that played into it, but yeah. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.